Parents and teachers, you might like this too. As far as executive function is concerned, you've got an elementary, middle school, high school kid, maybe even a college kid. Should you worry about executive function during summer break? The answer is yes, but I'll explain why and what you should do. So by the end of this video, you're going to know what I think is the number one most important executive skill that you should be worried about over this summer break, and why and how to support your child, or if you're a teacher, you'll get some ideas about what you might be able to do with students. But this really is for you parents out there. So basically, should you worry about executive function over summer break? Yeah. What the heck does that mean? Well, executive function, as you might remember, if you're familiar with my work, my name is Seth Perler, by the way. I'm an executive function coach, and I help struggling students navigate this thing called education so they can have a good life. So executive function is how the prefrontal cortex, the front third of your child's brain and your brain and my brain, how our brains help us to get things done. So if your child struggles to get things done, important things, maybe they get the video games done, the social media done, hanging out with their friends done, the skateboarding done, the art done, but they don't get things done, other things like responsibilities, chores, homework, turning assignments in, writing papers, studying, actual studying, things like that. They may not get those things done, things that are really important for their life. So that's what executive function is about, how our brain helps us to get important things done. Obviously, it's more complicated than that, but for the purposes of this video, we're not going to go into all that detail. We're going to talk about, should you worry about that over the summer? And for those of you that follow me, we want to remember that. Why should you do this over the summer? Because the brain it's still working, and it is like exercising a muscle. And the brain is not a muscle, but it's like exercising a muscle. Use it or lose it is true with the brain. We do want to use executive function. These are skills, executive function skills during the summer. You don't have to worry about everything over the summer, but we do want to be practicing these skills. You want your child to be practicing these because when they go back to school in the fall, you want them to have been practicing all summer executive function skills so that it's easier in the fall and they're building on the skill set. So yes, you do want to be working on these things. Now, I'm not going to talk about a lot of ways. I'm going to talk about one main way. I think that the most important thing, and also probably one of the easiest things that you can do with your child to help, and it doesn't matter if they're in elementary or college, the most important thing you can do to try to support them and try to help them is try to get them engaged in consistent planning. Planning is number one. And I'm going to tell you 10 quick tips on how to get your kiddo to plan, and just some ideas that will help you with how to do this throughout the summer. First thing I want to mention, number one, as far as helping your child plan the summer, is visual. If your kid struggles with executive function, visual. It has to be visual. Maybe you have a Google Calendar that's shared with you and your child and maybe the family, whatever, but a Google Calendar or some online calendar. Maybe on the wall you have a big desk calendars. I'm a big fan of those $5 giant black and white cheapo desk calendars, putting them right on the wall. Those are amazing to use. Maybe you print up just monthly calendars. You can look up monthly calendar template on Google and find a million just simple templates. You can print one up for the months of the summer. You might want to print up weekly calendars as well, and you might want to do daily planning as well. And daily planning you can do with sticky notes, whiteboards, note cards. There's a million different ways to do sort of a daily plan. But you, as you're planning through the summer, as you guys are going through summer, the things that you're doing have been planned, but your child may not have connected the dots that it's a plan, and we want them to, because the more mindful they are about that these things are plans, they're not just happening. They're not just at a summer camp. They're not just at a friend's house. These things have been planned. The more they're going to be able to integrate these skills. So you do want to make it visual. However you do it, make it visual. 2, make it age appropriate. If you have a younger kiddo, maybe you have a preschooler, a kindergartner, maybe you use photographs or images or large words or a mix of words and icons or something like that, and maybe they're on separate cards and your child can move them on the refrigerator with magnets or something like that. Whatever, there's a million ways to do it. And then obviously if you have a student in high school, you're going to be using a more complex planning. So just age appropriate, just meet your kid where they're at. That's the main thing. Number 3, ownership and buy-in. Look, parents, you're going to want to often be like, hey, we need to be planning. I just watched this great video. This guy said it's important. Well, well, maybe they do, some of them do follow me, but they need to have ownership and buy-in. They need to know that the plan involves them, that they have a say in it. The more they can be a part of creating it, or buying the wall calendar, putting it up, front loading it, which means one thing I want you to do is look at the school calendar. I'll mention that next, but front loading it with the things that you know are coming up this summer, doing that with them. The more they're involved in it, the more they color code it, the more they draw on it, draw icons on it, the more they're going to use it, the more they're going to get out of it, the more they're going to develop the executive function skill of planning. Number 4, download and print your school's academic calendar now for the upcoming fall, believe it or not, because that calendar is already out there for all school districts around the country. So get the things like the first day of school should be in the calendar, and allow your child to be like, when's the first day of school? Hand them the thing, or have them print it. The more buy-in and ownership, the better. But look at that school calendar. They should know what's coming up. So I ask my students, we just finished up the spring semester, and I ask my students, even my high school students, when's your last day of school? And they'll be like, oh, it's soon. What date is it? I don't know. Let's figure that out right this second. And sometimes it takes them 3 or 5 minutes to figure it out because they do not even know. These are high school kids that don't know the last day of school. Why? Because they haven't developed the executive function to be able to manage that level of detail yet. So we want to compassionately and empathetically support them to learn these skills. So get the school calendar, get the details that are coming up. I want them to know. Yeah, school starts on such and such a date. Winter break is on this date. Thanksgiving break is on this date. Just they should know a couple of things that are coming up. Number 5 is let them fail safe. Summertime is a great time to let them fail safe. Fail. What does that mean? Fail safe means that, let's say that your child is planning doing something with a friend on a certain date. You say, okay, let's put it on the calendar. You remind them. You say, now, do you want me to remind you of this again? Your child says, yeah. When do you want me to remind you? They tell you, you remind them with a sticky, verbally, whatever you do. But let's say that they forget, and you want so badly to rescue them and to be like, oh, this thing is coming up. Well, if it's a safe thing this summer and they miss something or they're late to something, but it's safe, there's not big consequences for it, this is a really good opportunity for them to really get more of their own internal locus of control over, why didn't you tell me this, mom and dad, about this thing? We did. You said remind you then. We reminded you at those times. Sorry, Beto. What? And then you can put it on them. What can we do to help you next time? What are you going to do to solve the problem and get out of the rescuing? So that's number 5. Let them fail in safe ways. Summertime's a great time to do that. Number 6 is remember that there are other things that will go into your plans. Whether you're doing daily, weekly, or monthly planning with your child over the summer, they can plan in things like micro projects. Micro projects might be like going through every single t-shirt they own and getting rid of everything that they're never going to wear again, going through their books, their toys, cleaning under the bed, their stuff in the garage, or whatever. So plan other things. Plan micro projects, plan appointments, plan free time and fun. I do teach my students to plan free time and fun because I want them to see that planning isn't just this thing for things that annoy them, but it's also to plan good stuff too. So plan free time, plan fun, let them see those blocks of time when they're free and they don't have to think about anything. Number 7 is put the time first. So when there are things on the calendar that are associated with the time, you want to always put the time first. I always teach my students to do this in their own calendars and planning. But if there's a time associated with a thing, as they're learning to be planners, they need to put the time first so that the eye sees that when they start getting more complex plans. So I put a big bullet in front of these because it's more visual. I put a smile by the dentist because it's more visual. Anything visual helps. 2 p.m. dentist, 5 p.m. have a friend over, whatever. So that's just an example of what might go on a calendar on a given day. So put the time first. The next one, number 8, is to be succinct. Just the word dentist. And 2 p.m., it's not 2:00 p.m. It's just keep it short and succinct. Kids need to learn to use shorthand, especially when they're not motivated to do this. Any way we can cut corners in a good way, we should. So be succinct. And then finally, consider prep time. One of the things about kids who struggle with executive function is, like me as an adult who struggles with the executive function, we are notoriously unrealistic about the time and effort it takes to get something done. So when this says dentist at 2 p.m., you or me, we need to ask them, okay, so if we have the dentist at 2 p.m., what time do we need to leave? And maybe they say 1:45, and you're like, okay, that's fair, 1:45. And what time do we need to get in the car? 1:44. And you're like, it's probably not going to work. I know how you are getting out the door and it takes forever. So what are we going to do? You can help them visualize what are we going to do to get out the door or whatever. But the more you consider prep time, the better. Like, it's not just 2 p.m. It's not just 5 p.m. Their friends, if their friend is coming over at 5 or they're going over to their friends at 5 and it's 5 and they haven't gotten their stuff together to go over there, well, then they're going to be late. And that's actually a good fail safe. But anyhow, the point is, number 9, consider prep time. Number 10, I know I've just implied this, but it's so important that I made this its own thing. So number 10, this is our last one. Number 10 is to resist rescuing your child, enabling, learned helplessness, doing too much. Again, this is a good time for them to feel safe. You already have the executive function. You've already practiced this. For many of the parents who watch my stuff, you are the family's executive function. That's exhausting. It's not fair to you. It's exhausting to you. It's tapping it. Takes energy from you that you want to be using with your family in other ways. But it's hard. We feel like we really want our kids to succeed and be able to do the things that they want to do. But resist rescuing. Really know, when is it supporting and when is it enabling? When is it doing too much for them and when is it not? You've got the executive function. Or if you don't have a good executive function and you're an adult, you've at least got the compensatory skills that you've built to have good enough executive function by this time. They don't. They're the ones that need to practice it. They're the ones that need to have consequences around this. And I'm not saying punishment, but like natural consequences that they have to take action. You nagging and bugging, reminding and all of this stuff, like, they need to be the one learning it. So I just really wanted to make number 10 about that and about resist rescuing them. One way that I really do, and I'm going to give you something very concrete here that I want you to consider working with not rescuing them, is when they say, hey, when are we doing so-and-so? Say, hey, check the calendar. And they're like, why don't you just tell me? Be like, it's on the calendar. Or you can just go on with your day at that point and ignore that question, because they're seeking response often. You just kindly said, check the calendar. You don't have to be a broken record. So also you can say to them, hey, good morning, what's up? You might want to check your calendar today. There's something important. And they're like, what is it? And they need to build the habit. So not rescuing them also includes saying, hey, you got stuff on your calendar, whether it's a daily, a monthly, a weekly calendar, whatever it is. Hey, check your plan. Hey, let's make a plan. But to, get them so that you're not saying, hey, walk over here with me and check it. You're getting them to take the responsibility for it. So when I was a classroom teacher, and even in my office, when I'm working with students in my office, I always have a calendar up. And the kids would say, when are we doing this? Or when's the day off? Or blah, blah, blah. And I really worked with them and trained them to know that I'm not going to answer that question because it's on the calendar. So I'd say, all right, go look at the calendar. Yeah. Or I might just nod at the calendar. And they'd say, when are we doing this, Mr. P? I'd be like, oh, yeah, check the calendar. Awesome. You figured it out. Yep, it's right there. Now, I obviously, if you're not familiar with me, this is never done with sarcasm or contempt or condescension. It's done with kindness and warmth and empathy, but also sometimes with firmness and boundaries. But anyhow, that's all I got for you. What are we talking about today? I said by the end of this video, you're going to understand if kids should be doing executive function over the summer. The answer is yes. Number one most important thing I think to do is continue working on planning, daily, monthly, and weekly planning. Make it visual. Do the other things that go with it. This will pay off for you in the fall and for your child, most importantly, so that they're getting more independence with planning and they can start their fall with more executive function skills. I definitely have other ideas, like things with micro projects and organizing and decluttering and stuff like that over the summer. But the most important thing I would say is the planning. My name is Seth Perler. I'm an executive function coach. You like this video? Give it a thumbs up. Helps support me. And leave a comment. What do you think about planning over the summer? Do you have any tips for us? What works? What doesn't work? Leave it in the comments below. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to support me that way too. You can get alerts on all the things. And my site is sethperler.com. And that's where you can get some good freebies for parents and teachers on my website if you subscribe there. Take care. See you soon. Oh, I have my summit coming up in August. TFOS, the Executive Function Online Summit. You can, it's linked somewhere below, but you can sign up for it now. I'm getting the speakers together. I've been working on that lately. Got about 10 of them recorded. I'm so excited. It's awesome. Hope to see you there. Take care, parents. Bye.